Welcome back to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We couldn't do these without the incredible support of our sponsors, and we want to take a moment to say thank you to all of them. First, thanks to our diamond sponsor, Varsity Brands, including BSN, Varsity Spirit, and Herff Jones. Varsity Brands, elevating student experiences in sport, spirit, and achievement. We also want to say thank you to our platinum sponsors, including Gipper, sports graphics made incredibly simple. Ephesus Lighting, innovating a brighter future at every level. Camp Mobile, where leaders communicate better. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. And Vital Signs, bring student achievements to life. Thanks to all of our great sponsors. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest today is a good friend, Suzanne Vick. Suzanne is a certified athletic administrator, and she's the district athletic director for the Curtis High School athletic program in University Place, Washington, going back to the great Northwest where I went to high school 100 years ago. Suzanne, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Thanks for asking me.
We're excited to have you, hear what's going on out in Washington. And like I said, it's a busy day, so let's go and get started. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you went to school and college, and maybe how your love of sports led to a career in athletic administration.
All right. So I grew up in Tacoma, Washington, born and raised, and I was a rec sports kid. I have a brother and a sister. My dad coached, and we just kind of did everything. We bounced from season to season. Playing all kinds of sports. My siblings both played college sports, and then my brother actually went on to play professional soccer. So lots and lots of sports in our family. I grew up at a camp called NBC Camps. It's the largest residential camp in the nation, and that's really brought a huge foundation to me. It shaped me and who I am today. I still work there in the summers. This was the first summer I've been off in not at NBC in 42 years. So that was super sad. I was a 10 sport letter earner in high school and went on to play volleyball at Eastern Washington University. I had an opportunity to play professionally in Europe, and I was scared. This is, pre-cell phone, pre-Google, pre-all of that. And I kind of couched it under, I just want to be a teacher. But the reality is I was just scared of going overseas and being alone. And so I became an elementary PE teacher. I thought that's what I would do forever. I taught there, and then I coached at the high school level, and then eventually became a junior high teacher, and then started having kids. So I have 3 boys. They're all basketball, football kids. My oldest 2 play basketball in college, one at Northwest University in Kirkland, and the other is at Seattle Pacific University. And I have a 16-year-old that has gotten some interest to play at the next level. So that's pretty exciting for them. And we get to watch the first college basketball game for my middle son on Wednesday. So that's exciting. I've taught private school. I've taught at an international baccalaureate school. And now it led me to being at Curtis High School. I was not going to be an athletic director. That was not my career path. I was on a walk with a friend of mine who happens to work in our district. And she said, "Hey, I think the AD job at Curtis is going to open up." And I'm like, "I'm not qualified for that job." She's like, no, I think you are. I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm telling you, I'm not qualified for that job." So another week goes by, we're on another walk, and she's like, "Hey, that job's open. I think you should apply for it." And somewhere in my mind, I must have been starting to spin of like, well, could I do that? So I thought, it doesn't hurt to get your resume updated and doesn't hurt to apply for a job. And I ended up applying for the job, and I got it. And so 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago, I was hired as the AD for the district, and I have been on a path of learning since we started. You know, I have the, you know, like I said, I grew up in a sports family. Dad coach, siblings played college sports. I played college volleyball, been blessed to be inducted in a few Hall of Fames athletically. So that's cool, but I get to use my gifts to serve other people. I've taken 4 different tours overseas with kids, used super unique experiences with NBC camps. But ultimately, it was my friend Deanna Bolts that got me to apply for this job. And I feel like I'm right where I'm supposed to be, although it's really hard. There's some days you're just like, what in the heck did I get myself into, and why am I not teaching?
I just really love to hear the stories. And again, the commonalities. I think I shared with you the first time we met that, you know, Curtis High School, you know, broke my heart, you know, back in my high school days, knocking us out of the basketball playoffs. And I actually have been to Cheney, Washington, so I know where Eastern Washington is. I've never seen the red football field, though.
The red football field is impressive.
Yeah. You know, Suzanne, in our business, we always talk about the importance of leadership and mentoring. And I'm going to guess you had a few mentors along the way. The expression I like to use is, I still hear those voices in my head when I'm talking to a kid or a coach or a parent. So whose voice do you still hear from your past?
Well, I would start with my parents and my siblings. I have, like I said, grew up in a sports family. My dad coached me, and that was hard because, you know, if you think about parents coaching kids, usually they're either way harder on your kid or they're way easier, and neither one of them's good. My dad was probably erred on the side of a little bit harder, but it's made me who I am. So my dad started the soccer program, girls soccer program at Mount Tahoma High School in Tacoma. We actually competed against each other because I went to Wilson High School. So my 9th and 10th grade year, I was the starting goalkeeper, and we both, you know, we were fighting for a league title over and over. So he was a great coach. He knew what he was doing. And I hear that voice. My mom she was everywhere. She's still everywhere. It kills them that they can't physically be at a game watching their grandkids play. But my parents didn't miss a game at Eastern Washington. They didn't miss, my brother played soccer at Simon Fraser. They didn't miss a game at Simon Fraser. And then my sister played at volleyball at Eastern. They didn't miss a game. So they were always there. That support was key. When I was inducted into the Hall of Fame at Eastern, you know, you got to write a speech, and you got to, you know, and I'm writing my speech, and I honestly, all I did all my life was try to be as good as my siblings. And in my speech, I'm like, oh, shoot, maybe I did, but I never realized, I didn't believe that I had arrived in that space. And so my siblings set a great example for what it was to be an athlete and disciplined, and I'm the baby of the family. So I got to just sit and watch them and then strive to be better than they were. So they're huge. Fred Kroll is probably the loudest voice in my head. Fred Kroll is the president founder of NBC Camps. Just was texting with him. He's in a battle with cancer right now, and he's amazing. He will say this. It's probably maybe not appropriate for the news, but he will say, "Piss on self-pity." He does not want the attention on him and how hard things are. He's just going, and he's dreaming and living and creating. He is the voice of reason in my head. When things get hard, I think about him and the lessons of perseverance and character and integrity that he taught me from 12 years old. I was just texting with him last week, and he's so dear to my heart. And 42 years ago, I was sobbing because my sister was going to go to Europe on a volleyball tour, and I thought something would happen and I'd lose my sister forever. And he was my 12-year-old, sit down, your sister's going to be fine. It's okay to dream. He's that guy. And then later in my adult life, I ended up going through a divorce that was not very fun. And he was the my go-to person, and he was grounded me and helped me and has always given me the "you're going to be okay." So he gave me, when I was 18 years old, a award that I still have that says Enthusiasm Leader. And I just, I think highly, highly of him. My other is my great Aunt B. She's no longer with us, but she was just someone that persevered. She watched 2 spouses pass. She went through a lot of hard times, and she just got up and never had a bad day. She was such a light in the world, and I was able to just think. I think about her a lot. I have a picture of her in my room of what would Aunt B do. And then lastly was my junior high volleyball coach. So you can't see me now, but I'm 5'11". I'm a tall, athletic female. But in 7th grade, I was also 5'11". And I was lanky, I was awkward. There was a teacher that said to me, "Whoa, you're a big girl." A bad thing to say, really, really bad thing to say. That kind of led me on a icky path of self-esteem and my body. But this teacher coach believed in me. And at 7th grade, he kept me on the volleyball team when actually people said, "Why would you do that?" And he saw potential in me. And he came, when I moved to the high school, he also moved to the high school and was the assistant volleyball coach. And he just believed in me. And he's the reason I got to play volleyball in college.
I just love to hear the stories, and yours particularly meaningful, just crossing the generations. Parents obviously I think are all of our mentors, but those coaches in junior high, collegiate coaches, professional coaches that we have as in our work that are still involved in our lives. So appreciate you sharing that. You certainly had a wide variety of experiences in athletics, player, coach, and now AD. And one of the things that we try to pride ourselves on with the podcast is the sharing of best practices. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. What are a couple of best practices that that your coaches at Curtis High School do, or maybe that you've seen around Washington that you just say, "Hey, we do this better than anybody else"? What's something that you really take pride in?
I think the biggest thing that I take pride in is relationships. So when I got hired in April for a job that started in July. I created intentional relationship building opportunities. So I met with every single head coach. I met with parents and families and student athletes. And once I listened and got to hear their voices. We spent really the entire year, that first year, creating a vision, mission, values statement that would guide all of the work we do. So our vision in the University Place School District is that we're going to be recognized for excellence in the classroom, in the community, and in competition. So if we can't say that and look at what we're doing, then it's not good. We got to do something different. Our mission, it's a little bit longer, let me read this, is that we will provide academic, athletic, and personal growth opportunities to develop excellence. We commit to building championship culture while supporting equitable opportunities for all students and staff that ignites a sense of shared pride and loyalty within our community. And then we broke it down, and what are our values? What do we care about? And we're committed and we own us, what we do, and we're respectful, and we really value excellence. And then after that, we developed what we call the Curtis Way. What does it look like if you are an athlete? This is what you do. These are the 13 things you do, not some of the time, not just at school, not just at practice, but all of the time. And really, we hammered hard this vision and this values to really create our practice. We are not perfect. that has been clear. And I know we'll talk about it a little bit when we get to the kind of the section of social justice and the issues that are going on in the world. But we are committed to developing a program of unity where we can just be excellent inside where we're at. So kids have a space that they can feel free to talk and care. We do a couple things. I feel like we do a really good job of grabbing student voice, being open to having conversations. I don't get knock on wood, I don't get a whole lot of phone calls of the complaining parent. And I think it's because we try really hard to do a good job of getting in front of that and communicating ahead and having lots and lots of conversations and being an open door. We have worked hard to develop student voice. We have created a unity committee that we spend time, it's coaches and athletes of all different programs, of all different races and genders, to really talk about issues that are really specific to us, our school, and our greater community. Prior to the shutdown, every half day we would do, we called it Viking Vision, and we would meet with any student athlete that wanted to come and be a part. We did free food. So there's your draw, get your kids in with free food. But then we would do team bonding. I brought in guest speakers to build up the leadership qualities of not just our captains, but any athlete that wanted to build on their leadership skills. I've battled with should I start a captain's council? But I really am erring on the side of all kids can be leaders. All kids can learn and grow in these skills. Probably my favorite thing we've done recently, because the COVID restrictions are so tight, we did a Friday Night Lights fitness event. And so we, you can't really create events inside of COVID. That's been really complicated for us. But we were able to, within our fitness guidelines, create a fitness opportunity where our athletes that had been cleared, they had to sign up and go through the questions and the temp checks and all of that. But on a Friday night, we turned on the lights, turned the scoreboard. We had our announcer there, loud music. We had our drum line come in because they can play. Our bands can't play, but our drum line can. Our cheerleaders were in uniform practicing, and we did. It was magical. We had so much fun. The kids obviously were a little bit out of shape. They were sore the next day for sure, but we had coaches, we had 9 different stations that they went to. They all stayed socially distanced in masks. But it was a highlight of our right before Christmas. We did it on December 11th, and it was really special.
That's such a great idea. I mean, taking advantage of, what you can do in what's been a year of, for a lot of states, hey, you can't do this, but what a great way to service your kids, your community, and just maintain those connections that I think are only possible through, the athlete coach, relationship. So great job. Also, great job in articulating and communicating, your school's, vision and mission. You talked about not getting, a lot of phone calls. And I think that's so important. You need to set that tone. This is how we roll. And, the parents see it, they get it, and, for the most part, go along with it. So great stuff.
Thanks.
You and I have talked a little bit, and not just today, about the importance of being involved with your professional organizations, locally, state level, and national. So we have a lot of younger ADs as listeners. So talk a little bit about, your journey, becoming an AD, getting involved at the state, and now, at the national level.
I think it's so important. Professional development is one of my core values. So each day I write a few different things, but one of them is, what do I value? And I value relationships, and I value growth, and I value character. Those are my 3 each and every day. And you have to be intentional to grow. You have to be intentional to grow on every day. And the NIAAA has so many resources to get better, be better. I think the one caution I would say is that it is very much like drinking from a fire hose. So you have to like take a thing, go try to use it, and then do another thing. I have a folder inside my my email that just says professional development. So if I see something, it's like, that's a great idea. I take it and I put it in that folder for a day where I'm like, okay, I want to learn something new or different right now, but you can't learn it all. So that's one of the things that has been very clear to me, because once you get into the grind, like we've had some opportunities to grow professionally different through this COVID season, because we're not, you know, supervising games late at night. But it is, it's really important to grow, but also give yourself some grace not to learn all of it at the same time. I went to my first AD conference my first year, joined the NIAAA my first year, but my first conference I went to, and nobody told me anything different, but I took 3 law classes, LTI classes.
Wow.
So it's like, I've been doing this
That's
job.
your fire hose right there.
Yeah, I've been doing this job for 6 months, and all of a sudden, like they're talking about storming the field and pulling down goalposts and all of the things that can go wrong. And if I had advice to give to somebody, I'd say just maybe take one at a time, because that was really, really overwhelming. I did just take my CAA test in July, passed, and now I'm working towards my CMAA. I think I have all the classes done. I just need to, I've got some projects that I probably could use, but just want to, you know, do it well and do it right. But it is important to grow on a daily basis.
Let's go ahead and talk about COVID. For our listeners, we are recording this in January. And so hopefully by the time you hear it, I think this is scheduled to air in March, we'll have some good news from Washington. But Suzanne, we've obviously seen a wide variety of responses from states and governments and health departments with regard to return to school. So right now in January, what's happening in Washington? What's happening at Curtis as far as return to play as well as return to school? What's going on academically?
So I think just like about everybody in the world, everything got shut down on March 12th, 2020. So we're almost a year. So by the time this airs, we're going to be a year into COVID and the shutdown athletically and academically. I would say, based on the research I've done and the things I've listened to, that Washington is by far one of the most conservative states in return to school and return to play. We have it, and to some degree it's been frustrating, but in the other, I appreciate that there has been a plan, and the goal is safety of our athletes and our coaches and our teachers and staff. But we are not in any in-person school, at least at Curtis High School right now. Our governor just rolled out a plan right before the break to start in-person school. But every district kind of gets to take it at the pace that they feel is appropriate for their district. So our plan at Curtis is the 1st of February. We're going to roll in our kindergarten and first graders in a hybrid model, and then slowly bring in our other students as we are prepared to do so. So our safety protocols are in place. We are in a good place to do this, but I think there's some hesitation for sure that the vaccine hasn't, you know, all the way rolled out. Teachers are concerned, and rightly so. As we get more on the vaccine, I think we'll see more start to open up here, at least in the state of Washington. As far as athletics goes, you know, we are on plan, I think 723. Somebody in our league would say COVID's winning, and it's undefeated. But on October 16th, we got the go ahead in our district to start doing some small in-person workouts in pods. And that has been the difference. We've been able to track our athletes. We've been able to track them academically. We've gotten our athletes connected with trusted adults. And I'm so proud of our coaching staff for what they've done, either virtually or in person. But we've had 22 of our 27 sports have been able to do some form of in-person workout. and the two bowling alleys got shut down. So we took out our bowling alleys, and then our golf kids have been golfing, but they haven't been doing anything overly, I don't know, organized. But we just set a plan in motion last week that we are able to, if we get to phase 2, start competitions on February 1st.
Oh, wow.
If we get to phase 2, which we were, the new metrics came out on Friday, they're implemented today. Our region was the closest to being able to get to phase 2. So we'll see, they come out every Friday. So we'll have a better idea next Friday and then the next Friday to see where we're at. But if we can get to phase 2, we are going to start with traditional fall sports on February 1st. Football will start. And then on the 8th, all the other traditional fall sports will start. And then we are going to go about 6 weeks, and then we'll do our traditional spring sports and then end with our traditional winter sports before graduation. So it's been to some degree disheartening because like right now we live, there's a Home Goods just a mile from us, and they can have 56 people in their Home Goods store, but we can't have 6 kids in our gym.
Yeah.
So that's a disconnect. We have some other disconnects we're trying to work out right now, such as if we are able to get this football thing started, we would get to start volleyball at the same time because of the risk level. We can have 200 people in our stadium. That includes spectators and athletes, coaching staff, but we can have 25% capacity in our gym. So we have 200 in our stadium, but 1,000 in our gym. Does not make any sense. So we've got a little bit of disconnect, and I think some of that's getting worked out, and hopefully we'll be able to open up and do some, we can do indoor training now because it's considered low risk, but we can't have basketballs or volleyballs or any of that. I got some ideas if right now we do not have a space for basketball, water polo, competitive cheer, or wrestling to start, because they are considered high risk and indoors. And so if we could somehow move them outdoor, we can compete. So we may be hosting the best 3-on-3 tournament ever in basketball in the spring if we can't figure out how to get in a gym and play basketball.
Well, I mean, certainly some good news, squeezed into that plan 724 about possibly restarting. I'm certainly not a doctor or an epidemiologist or anything like that, but I was saying this in our state, which fortunately we have been playing. You have, this state that plays and the adjacent state that doesn't play, both have metropolitan areas, both have rural areas, they're similar, and yet both have made decisions at opposite ends of the spectrum. And yet both states are typically using their sports medicine advisory committee as the reason for their decision. And I've said, science should be a little more consistent in how it's applied. But again, certainly that's good news.
That's been really hard for a lot of our student athletes. They're like, why are 37 other states participating in football? Why at Liberty Lake you can't, but at Post Falls you can? They're 5 miles apart.
Right.
So Idaho has been going full speed ahead, and Washington hasn't been able to. So that's been really hard for our Spokane schools that are so close to that and seeing it and hearing it, and it's in the newspapers. And we've had some significant athletes that have moved. We've had some athletes that have gone to Utah and Arizona for the opportunities to compete. And so that's been, I do feel for these kids and kids that are looking for the opportunity to go to the next level. I have 2 kids that are playing college sports right now. This is a hard time to be a junior or senior. Just not playing is one thing, but feeling like you're losing opportunities that other kids are getting is a whole different ballgame.
Right. I'm curious, what has been, obviously, governors and, state and county health departments, they're the ones that are in charge. What has been the response of your state association and your state ADs association? Obviously complying, but, are they, actively, lobbying for, return to play? Are they just kind of accepting? I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but, what's been their response?
I'll tell you, this is there are COVID blessings. I'm definitely a glass half full kind of person, so looking for the blessings, but COVID has brought our state association as well as our athletic director association together tighter than I think it's ever been, ever. We meet almost every Wednesday as a group of athletic directors with our WIAA staff. And there are on any given day, 250 to 300 athletic directors on these calls. We have committed to each other and the organization. WIA is advocating for a safe return to play for sure. The, I guess, disappointing part in it is that who's having the loudest voice is, I don't know, it's not disappointing, but the outside organizations are having the loudest voice. So the pool association has hired a lobbyist, and they are getting movement faster than we are. So when something comes out and it's against the pools, like almost instantly, they're able to get some kind of movement. We did have a group, an organization, it was called the SAW organization, which was Student Athletes of Washington. They did a rally at the Capitol, and that organization is what got us to the point of being able to do these small pod workouts. But right now, the way the guidance is, and it's kind of goofy, like they took us completely out of part of schools and they lumped us in with funerals and weddings and in-person dining and fitness centers. So it's like, what? So our WIA and our president was able to meet with the governor's office and the Department of Health last week and just trying to get some clarity. Like, we don't want to be unsafe. We want to be as safe as possible, but we also know that there are groups and organizations and states that have done this safely. Washington right now, although we were the epicenter in the beginning of this, our COVID numbers are lower than most. And so we do feel like we can return to school and we can return to athletics safely under the guidance that we have.
Sporting events and funerals, that's an odd pairing, but again, as you mentioned, it sounds like it might be, inching toward a positive change. So, we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. Suzanne, you mentioned it earlier. During these podcasts, I've been asking ADs about this idea of social awareness, social justice. And my question is this, what are some things that we can do as athletic administrators? What are some things that we can do better with our kids, our coaches, our communities in this area of social justice?
I appreciate you asking that question. I think we have to act. I think number one is that we have to act. We have to be aware through this process. I have become much more aware of what's going on in my community. My job, I feel like, is to be loud in my space. And if everybody chose to be loud in their space, we get better. And so, we created that unity committee, and that came really out of a group of kids that as all of these things are unfolding in our communities, they just wanted to talk. So at that point, we can only have 4 people in a room, all in mass. And I just was appointment after appointment after appointment. Come talk to me. What have you experienced? What things here at this school have affected you when it comes to things of social justice? And so lots and lots of notes, lots of conversations, which again brought us to this place of this unity committee that we meet. Usually we have a midday or an evening opportunity for kids and coaches to just share what's going on and how do we get better. The Friday Night Lights fitness event came out of this unity committee. How do we get all of our programs in one place at the same time to realize we're all on the same page? I, I think learning is key. We have to take the time. That whole, like I said, growth is on my list of things to do every day, but we have to meet with people and talk with people and listen and learn. And we have to take the initiative to learn on our own what the realities are for people of color, or people of different gender orientations, different races. Like, we have to learn. The other thing that I have become very aware is that we have to believe the stories that are being told. We did a meeting with our coaching staff and had 5 of our coaches of color just share their story. And we just listened and listened, and there were tons of repeated themes. And these are people in University Place that are coaching our kids that have experienced things that I had no idea. But we have to believe the stories, and then we need to empower people to change and to act and to speak out respectfully. And then again, go back through the cycle of meet and talk and listen and learn and believe people and empower them to be better and better and better and better. We're talking about, honestly talking about doing something that would mimic very much probably a elementary school field day, but it would be bringing our programs together, and you would be on a team with other programs, and just providing that opportunity to build unity and have conversations. At our Friday Night Lights event, we had a halftime where we had a speaker that talked about caring for other people, just caring and listening, and what does that look like? So, we've got to continue to learn, and we have to do better. Some of the stories that I heard just here in our school brought me to tears. Things that I had no idea had happened. And so we have to give a space for a voice, and then we got to listen.
I really appreciate you sharing that. It sounds like you've got the framework for a great CMAA project. As somebody who was on certification for a long time, I'd love to hear, how that might work out. Thanks for sharing. Let's go and change things up a little bit. I always ask our EDs, what's your favorite part of the job? And for the first, 60 or 70 interviews, it was always the same thing. Oh, it's the kids. And of course it should be the kids. Why else would you get involved in this job? But acknowledging that we all love our kids. What are some of the things that get you excited about coming to Curtis High School every day?
I got a few things. One is, and this is, when you're in sales, you always have to have an elevator speech. You get in an elevator, 30 seconds, how do you describe your job? And you got to do it quick, and the elevator door opens, you got to get out. But I get to empower people to live within their passion. That's coaches and that's kids and everybody else that's around me. So that's what gets me up in the morning. That's what I love about my job. I get to empower people to live within their passion. And we all know that if you're living within your passion, you do not feel like you are working a day in your life. And so, and I'm not a crier. I don't cry. But I'll tell you what, my girls lacrosse team asked me to read their senior speeches a year, so it would have been 2 years ago now, for their senior night. And I could not get through that without bawling. I was like, my principal looks at me and goes, you gotta pull it together. I'm like, I can't pull it together, because listening to kids fulfill their dreams and living inside their passion is what propels me to do what I do every day. And so I do get choked up about my job when I see people living their dreams. It's just stellar. I'm working on a mentorship program with our female coaches to really propel them into leadership roles. And so another one of those, like, how can we live within our passion? What is your passion? And then ultimately, like I said, one of my core values on a daily basis, I write it every day, is relationships. It's all about relationships. Those are kid relationship, parent relationship, grandparent relationships, our student athletes and our coaches. So that's what I love about my job.
Uh, I'm chuckling because I'm telling you, Suzanne, I just stole that. Live within your passion. You said it. I counted 7 times during that segment. And then you also used one of my favorite responses. People say, Jake, how's it going? And they know what's going to come. I always say, hey, I'm living the dream. But live within your passion. You enable people, you help people to live within their passion. That is great. I'm stealing that. Okay.
You can have it.
Well, this has been really cool. It was fun getting to meet you in the the virtual happy hour a while back. This has been great listening to you share your story, but we're not done yet. We always like to wrap up with what we call the athletic director's toolbox. I'm tasking you right now. You're sending out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let you put 3 things in their toolbox. What 3 items are going to go in Suzanne Vick's athletic director toolbox?
So number 1 is when you get the job, you got to find your go-to person. You have to find one person that you can talk to, seek advice from. You can ask for advice from all different people, and you're going to get all different kinds of advice. So who is your person that you're going to call, that you're going to ask the questions to? I definitely had mine. It was an AD in our district that I could text or call anytime I needed to. Help me understand eligibility. Help me understand this. What about this situation? Because situations, being an AD is like holding a bag of M&Ms and then just throwing it all over the ground. Like it's so scattered. And so you have to know that that's what the job is, and you're not going to have all the answers. I mean, I've read that WIA handbook so many times and I still don't understand. And so you have to have your go-to person. That's number 1. I think you have to be willing to ask questions and not feel like you're dumb. Like I still don't understand the business services side of this whole thing, the ASB side, the district office side, the contracts, all of that stuff. Like that's not my passion. My passion is relationships. And so business and numbers is not. And so I have to be willing to ask the questions. But I think too is that you have to be willing to share new ideas. So yes, ask questions, but know that like I didn't come from hey, I'm going to be an athletic director the rest of my life. But we have implemented some things in our league just because I said, hey, what about this? Have we thought about this? And they were willing to listen and do and act. And so be willing to share your new ideas because they may not have ever thought of them before. And then lastly, my biggest advice is probably be an athlete. It's gonna be hard. You're gonna have to persevere, and now go be loud in your space. Like just go be an athlete. And I think about this, COVID time, we've been doing this for a year. Go be loud in your space. One of the things that I did when the shutdown happened, and I really thought we had stopped for cleaning. Like, hey, we're going to stop for 3 weeks. We're going to clean the school and then we're going to come back to school. That wasn't the case. But I started recording a video every day. And I said, I will record this video every day till we come back together. So it was just a word of hope, a message of hope. Didn't know we weren't coming back at all. Like I got to like episode 72 every day, but that was a way that I could go be loud in my space and I could encourage people and kids. And it was super uncomfortable. I don't do that, but I did because that's what is important for our kids and our families, is that they knew that there was somebody holding them to the school and that their athletics, and they knew that their athletics was important and that they were valued. So go be an athlete.
I love that. Okay. Obviously, have that go-to person I think is important, ask questions, but also share your ideas and be an athlete. I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you still have those videos that you recorded?
Well, you could find them if you go to Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, and our tag is @ so the @ sign, Our Viking Nation, OUR Viking Nation. So that's our social media accounts, and they're all on there, and some better than others. But it was a task. It was a big thing, but I got a lot of feedback that parents just saying thank you for helping keep my kid connected.
I'm telling you, there's your CMAA project right there. A little intro on the front, a conclusion on the end. Bam, that'll be a unique project that would be so valuable for other ADs to look at. But I'll leave that one up to you. Okay.
Well, thanks.
Suzanne, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
Absolutely. It's a blessing and honor. I am excited to lead loud in my space, and I appreciate you asking.
Oh, no, absolutely. To our listeners, remember the Zoom recordings of these podcasts are also being posted on the Educational Athletic Director FIAAA YouTube channel. So take a watch, and until next time, thanks for tuning in to the Educational AD podcast. Have a great day.